The Senate will come to order. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hall, Hancock, Hinojosa, Huffman, Hughes, Johnson, King, Colcourse, La Mantilla, Menendez, Middleton, Miles, Nichols, Parker, Paxton, Perry, Schwertner, Sparks, Springer, West, Whitmire, Zaffarini.
Quorum is present. Please rise for the invocation to be delivered by Pastor Eric Moore of the Summit Worship Center in Austin.
Let's pray. O God, most mighty, O God, most merciful, O God, our strength and our song, you call these leaders to serve the public, promote justice, and establish peace in our land. We lift before you all who govern and serve our nation through this body, its senators and its staff. Bless these servants with collaboration in this holy experiment. We ask that you would grant them unity to work together for the good of your creation. Give to those whom we trust with authority the spirit of wisdom and understanding. Guide them with the spirit of counsel and insight. Grant them a spirit of knowledge. Grace them with your presence. For you show us a vision of a tree whose leaves are for the healing of the nations. May that tree take root here, bearing fruit in the hearts and the work of these servants. I pray this through your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Moore. You may be seated. The Dean of Senate moves to suspense of the reading of yesterday's journal. Is there an objection? Chair hears none. The motion's adopted. Chair recognizes Senator Flores to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. It's a great honor to have Dr. Diana Cook, who practices here in Austin, here as our Doctor of the Day. Dr. Diana Cook began practicing in 2015 with a focus on family medicine and clinical interest in women's health, obesity medicine, preventative care, and whole family care. She earned her undergraduate degree in chemistry at New College of Florida in Sarasota and attended medical school at the University of Florida College of Medicine in Gainesville. In addition to English, she speaks fluent Spanish, and in her spare time, Dr. Cook enjoys crafting, being outdoors, and traveling. Dr. Cook is married with 3 wonderful children. Thank you, Dr. Cook, for volunteering your time to serve as our Doctor of the Day.
That's an impressive group of young men sitting up there in the gallery. Welcome. Yeah, give yourself an applause. There you go. And everywhere else, welcome to the Capitol. Good to have you here today. You're all good looking today. Just everyone looks good. But they look like a choir sitting there. They just look like they're ready to break out in song. Members, can we have everyone take your seats for a very special resolution today? Chair lays out the following resolution. Secretary, read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 335 by Hancock. Whereas the Senate of the State of Texas is pleased to recognize the outstanding Texans who have served our nation with distinction and who have been awarded the National Medal of Honor for their exceptional contributions to our country. And whereas the Medal of Honor is the United States Armed Forces' highest military decoration and is awarded to American soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, guardians, and Coast Guardsmen who have distinguished themselves by acts of valor, conspicuous gallantry, and intrepidity at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty. And whereas an estimated 40 million people have served in the United States Armed Forces since the Medal of Honor was established under President Lincoln during the Civil War, and fewer than 4,000 individuals have received this prestigious honor since it was first awarded 160 years ago on March 25, 1863. And whereas today there are 65 living recipients of the Medal of Honor across the United States, the 10 Medal of Honor recipients who call Texas their home are Patrick Brady, Flo Groberg, Sal Giantu, Michael Thornton, Jose Rodella, Ty Carter, James Fleming, Dakota Meyer, Robert O'Malley, and Clarence Sasser. These loyal Americans rose above and beyond the call of duty to aid their country in times of need, and they have each demonstrated extraordinary bravery, patriotic spirit, and commitment to defending the nation. And whereas Texas will soon be the home of the National Medal of Honor Museum, which will be opened in Arlington in the spring of 2025, Americans from across the country will have the opportunity to learn about the history and significance of the Medal of Honor and about those who have done their utmost during military combat to protect America. These celebrated military veterans have set a lasting example of courage and selfless service, and it is indeed fitting that these treasured Texans and esteemed Medal of Honor recipients receive special recognition for their valor and their service on behalf of their fellow Americans. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Senate of the State of Texas 88th Legislature hereby pay tribute to our state's heroic military service members who have been awarded the National Medal of Honor and extend to those in attendance at the state capitol a warm welcome and an expression of sincere gratitude to all.
Senator Hancock, on your resolution.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And gentlemen, let me just say what an incredible, humbling honor it is to be able to introduce you to the Senate floor today. The Medal of Honor is the United States Armed Services' highest military decoration and is awarded to the recognized service member who have distinguished themselves by acts of valor at the risk of life above and beyond the call of duty. Of the 65 recipients who are alive today, we do have 10 of them in the state of Texas, some of them by choice. Am I correct? I'd like to introduce you and thank General Brady and Petty Officer Thornton for joining us on the floor as we honor their service as well as the 8 other Medal of Honor recipients living in the Texas today. General Brady and Petty Officer Thornton both truly embody the service over self mindset, both making great risk to their own lives in order to save many others. When you walk on the ground of the floor of the Capitol, you pass by the display that states, "Above and Beyond, the Medal of Honor in Texas." I'm proud to have such an image of valor displayed in our state capitol, and I'm also proud that each day Texans engage in the display and learn a little about what sacrificial service truly means. And I am humbled by these men's presence today. They truly do display going above and beyond. The chairman of the National Medal of Honor Museum, being built in Arlington, is quoted as saying, "By honoring these heroes, we hope to awake the hero in all of us. May their stories and their legacy of those before them awaken a spirit of courage, commitment, and integrity in each one of us." Our deepest gratitude to them and the National Medal of Honor Museum in Arlington for being able to share the stories of these brave men and women. I look forward to the opening and the impact that it will make in many, many people's lives. Members, I ask that you join me in recognizing some great men. And I know we have a lot of youth here. Senator West, I think, is bringing some youth. For those youth that are here, these men create the movies that you watch on TV and that you go to the theater, but they live the real life of those movies that we just go and watch. Thank you so much for your service.
Senator Birdwell, you're recognized on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, there's not a lot that I can add. That when I was coming onto the floor, members, I did not know we were doing this resolution. But as I'm coming through the side hallway and I see General Brady, Petty Officer Thornton, and you see the medal, and you just stop and you say, "Thank you for joining us today." I didn't know what we were doing, but there are two Medal of Honor winners among us. The thing that I think, in the number of Medal of Honor winners that I have met in my time, from my time in service and since retirement, but one thing they would always speak to is it's not what they did, it's what everybody around them did. Because many of them wear that medal individually, but it's a group of people that earn it. I would give you the example not just of General Brady and Petty Officer Thornton that are with us today, but several years ago when I was at Commander General Staff College, I got to meet he was a colonel, but he earned the medal as a captain in the Korean War, Captain Millett. And he was and there's a large bound book called it's the citation of every Medal of Honor winner, and I would encourage y'all to just pull that thing up every once in a while and read the citations. And Colonel Millett's citation during the Korean War was that he was a company commander, had about a platoon plus remaining in his company out of ammunition, and he led the last United States Army bayonet charge, not during the Civil War, not during the Spanish-American War, not during the Mexican-American War, but during the Korean War. And he and 7 other men survived it, and he was awarded the Medal of Honor. Colonel Stone, who is buried, I met him several years ago, but is now buried at the Dallas-Fort Worth Veterans Cemetery, is one of the few Medal of Honor winners buried in the mid-cities between Dallas and Fort Worth. And Colonel Stone, in similar circumstances, but it would take 2.5 years as a prisoner of war in a North Korean camp, not just surviving the event that brought him the Medal of Honor, but surviving for 2.5 years in the destitution of being a prisoner of war in a North Korean camp. And those individuals do not treat you the way the Geneva Convention says you're supposed to be treated as a prisoner of war. The level of sacrifice that our men and women that earn the Medal of Honor, I think it's less than 10%, correct me, gentlemen, that receive the medal non-posthumously. Over 90% of the medals that are awarded as a Congressional Medal of Honor winner are posthumous, meaning that you are deceased with the event. If you go to our Medal of Honor display in in the ground floor. Most of the pictures you see of those men that have earned that medal, it's a picture before the awarding of the medal, and there's very few that are shown wearing the medal because most receive it posthumously. So, members, while we sometimes concern ourselves with the direction of our nation and our culture, and are there still men among us and women among us that still have the character, I would offer to you that General Brady and Petty Officer Thornton demonstrate that the American character is still very much alive and well in our state and in our nation. God bless you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Thank you, Senator Birdwell. Senator Hinojosa, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, I'm very honored to see this man before us here in the Texas Senate. And it's really, when you look at our nation's and country's history, every generation, every war, every challenge we have faced against our enemies, our countries that want to destroy our way of life and our freedom, we have men and women who stand out, like these two gentlemen in front of us. I would tell you that I served in the United States Marine Corps, Vietnam, and I lost one of my opponents, if you will, in high school, Freddy Gonzalez. Freddy Gonzalez was in the United States Marine Corps, and he was in the Battle of Hue, where he lost his life. In helping other Marines be rescued when they were under fire. And at that time, I was in Fubai. And what's really amazing to me is when I see men like you standing before us, that you honor us with your presence here and show us, and we appreciate your valor, your courage, your commitment to our country. And many times, those of us who've been under fire, we don't know necessarily how we're going to react. But our spirit in this country, in this nation, is strong and will react to protect not only our comrades, but protect our country, and willing to fight and die for it. But I am telling you that not necessarily do we want to die, but we will die for our country. So for me, I'm just very honored to have these two gentlemen who are Medal of Honor winners in our presence here at Texas Senate. Thank you so much for your commitment to our country.
Thank you, Senator Hinojosa. Senator Menendez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's truly an honor to rise in support of this resolution. I rise to thank Senator Hancock for bringing Senate Resolution 335, because there are many things that we'll debate on the Senate floor, but there are very few things that we will have a unanimous, wholehearted consent completely behind, and you represent that. Your valor, your courage, your dedication, above all, your willingness to sacrifice everything for our country. So I rise to say thank you. And I've had the honor and privilege of representing the city of San Antonio for a long time. And San Antonio, also known as Military City, USA, we don't think of that as just sort of a sign or a bumper sticker or a slogan. It's something you have to earn every day. And we're fortunate, we're blessed to have a relationship with almost over 25, by my count, Medal of Honor winners in our city. And we don't have enough time to go through that, but just want to say thank you. Also, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we add all members' names to this resolution as it deserves all of our support, and thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I will do that at the end. I'll make that motion. Senator West, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and also members. Senator Hancock, thank you very much for bringing this resolution. And the reality is that I represent Arlington, maybe about this much of it, but I still represent Arlington. And the former mayor is here. Jeff, thank you very much for being here. And I want to thank both of you, General, Petty Officer Thornton, Navy man. And I think back to my grandfather. My grandfather was the first African-American to serve as a chief machinist mate in the U.S. Navy. And talking to some of the persons that are in your company, a couple of them actually attended the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, where I was born. Your service to this country, second to none. Reality is every person in this gallery who stood up and applauded your bravery, your dedication, and your leadership recognize the sacrifice that you've made throughout your entire life. And so as we pass this resolution under the leadership of the Lieutenant Governor, I'm hoping that as we open the museum, I think in a couple of years, that every member in this body get an invitation to attend, and that just as we pass this resolution today in your honor and other Medal of Honors persons here in the state of Texas and throughout this country, that we are there to be able to award and also applaud you for service to this particular country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator West. And if we happen to be in session that day, it may be a rare occurrence to not have session that day, so we can all be there. Senator Hall, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Hancock, for bringing this. And Senator Menendez, I agree with what you say. This is truly a nonpartisan issue. And Senator Bill Birdwell, your comments about all of them, every one of the Medal of Honor winners is a story that stands on its own and in awe, and anybody who just reads about them. And in those that haven't, we have in our hallway a number of posted Texas Medal of Honor winners. I urge you to stop by and read some of those and see what they really encountered. And I've had the honor to meet and know several winners. Mike Thornberry is one of them that I've had occasion to be at a number of events with, and his story is absolutely mesmerizing to listen to what happened that night. And he is probably the only Medal of Honor winner who actually, as a part of that same night in which he earned it all on his own, he rescued another Medal of Honor winner and kept him afloat for quite a long time till they could be picked up by the boat to be taken back to the ship. If you have a chance, I suggest you read it. It's on the internet. And just want to thank you guys for what you've done. It's truly an honor to be here, to be in your presence and those. And we do look forward to the museum opening up, and God bless you for all that you've done.
Thank you, Senator Hall. Senator Springer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Hancock, for bringing this forward. And, you know, it is an absolute honor to have you here on the Senate floor. I've had the privilege for over 11 years representing Gainesville, Texas, the most patriotic small town in America, that since 2001, we have been the Medal of Honor host city. And I know Petty Officer Thornton has been there, and I believe you have as well, General. But, you know, it is an outstanding. Gainesville's had 56 of the 65 living Medal of Honor recipients grace our town to visit with the kids. And President, they go visit the school, and we have thousands of kids that will line up to shake these men's hand and to learn what true patriotism is. And they are changing the next generations by what they do. And I know we've had on the House floor, we had Clarence Sasser before. And for those House-trained members, you may remember right next to the members' lounge, there's a sketch of an African-American gentleman, and that is Clarence Sasser. I think he was out of Angleton, Texas, represented by, at that time, Dennis Bonnen. And so, you know, Clarence and the things you do. And you mentioned the citations. I have the Book of Medal of Honor that when you walk into my office, that is the first book you see. It's to every citation from the Medal of Honor recipients. And you're right. You can open any page and you will be amazed at the bravery that they went through, and also knowing that the hand of God had to be guiding them to be able to get through the situations they were able to get through and accomplish the things they did. And it's not only in the theater where you distinguish yourselves, but it's what you've come back and given. I know we lost one of our true patriots. Woody Woodrow was a dear friend of mine. He did the Gold Star family memorials that are across this nation. And from that standpoint, but it is a true honor to have y'all on the floor here from Gainesville, Texas. And I know we have the Texas Medal of Honor Museum that is also being built with the help of the Senate last session, that we put a little bit in there to help get kick-started as well. And I know they're working with Arlington to make that a great 1-2 stop as well, as we continue to let future generations know what it truly is to be an American. So God bless y'all.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Campbell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your valor is all of our victory. Your love for country is our liberty. We truly are the land of the free and the home of the brave because of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Blanco.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Chairman Hancock, for bringing this important resolution. I've got the honor of serving on the Veteran Affairs Committee, and we get to hear these stories all the time. But as we've heard, the Medal of Honor is the highest military decoration, one that's awarded to those young boys, girls from the farms, ranches of Texas, from the inner cities of Dallas, El Paso, and others. And it's awarded to those that have demonstrated exceptional bravery in the face of danger. And, but the Medal of Honor is more than a symbol of bravery. I think it's a reminder of the importance of standing up for what is right at that moment. And I think a lot of us can learn from this example. Even in the most challenging circumstance, and doing what's right at the time. And I think it represents the best of this nation. You all represent the best of our country because you have gone above and beyond. And as someone who has served in the military, I value this in the highest regard. I mean, what you all have done is far above and beyond what most people do. So as we honor you and we recognize your valor, I think it's important that we reflect upon ourselves. I think it's important that we see your valor and the decisions that you've made to uphold our values in our countries, that we do that as well as legislators. Because we've heard from Senator Birdwell the countless men or women and men who have not come back because of their bravery. So I think courage goes a long way, and I think it serves as an inspiration to all of us to do the right thing at the right moment, even if it doesn't benefit ourselves. So thank you so much for inspiring us. Thank you for doing what's right, and thank you so much for your service.
Senator Hancock, to close.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. And as we speak of these men, I think, as you suggested, it would be wise for the audience as well to hear just a little glimpse of why they're standing here. And I'm going to condense this a little bit. We all want to know the details, but Petty Officer Thornton, for example. Petty Officer Thornton was on a mission in enemy territory with the Navy SEALs and an extraction of intelligence as well as a prisoner. They were successful to a point with enemy fire. He had made it back to the shoreline where he was supposed to be, but he recognized and noticed that a senior advisor was no longer with him. Rather than leaving, he returned into fire and into enemy territory in order to save one of his own as a petty officer. Successfully, he did that to this wounded and was able to bring him back to the shoreline as well, and then spent 2 hours, taking him 3 hours, after filling up his life vest, sacrificing himself potentially in order to save another. That's Petty Officer Thornton. Brief. Again, we'd love to hear the details. General Brady is a crazy man. Because General Brady got into a helicopter in weather that was less than ideal, too foggy to see. He had a solution for that. He's a fixer. He turns the helicopter sideways in order to blow the fog away so he could see enough to go into enemy fire in order to save South Vietnamese at first. Did that successfully. Went back into enemy fire to save other Americans. Did that successfully. Went back into enemy fire a third time. Where we have many that were alive because you were crazy enough to do the unthinkable and fly in conditions, fly into enemy territory, being shot at, being hit. But through that, that's how you get the Medal of Honor. With stories like this that only you and I see on TV, but they experienced it because of the values and integrity that what they wish to do now through the museum in Arlington and through our educational system to teach to our kids. And what better selfless acts of service and what better men to be able to do that. And think about the technology we have today where we can record their stories that need to be told in detail, not as I've told them, but in detail, so that our kids can learn those values that these men present before us today. Thank y'all for allowing me the time to recognize them and tell their story ever so briefly. I hope you get a chance to hear it in much depth. Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Senator. First, I want to make the motion for Menendez and Birdwell to add everyone's name. Any objection? Hearing none, that motion is adopted. And now let's stand in honor of our true heroes here. Not people on the baseball field, not people on the gridiron, not movie stars, real heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice and willing to do it, their own lives to save others. All those in favor of the resolution have now stood. Thank you, gentlemen. Resolution adopted.
twice. Members, can we have some order? Chair lays out the following resolution. The Secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 329 by West, congratulating the Duncanville High School football team on winning the 2022 UIL Class 6A Division I State Championship.
Chair. Chair recognizes Senator West on the resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. I rise once again, this time to welcome the 22-23 UIL Class 6A Senator Division I football championships from Duncanville High School. That's right. Senator Cole, of course, you remember when Katy and schools out of my district would be playing in championship games. This time, it's Duncanville High School. The Duncanville Panthers varsity football team. The Panthers snapped a streak and ended up becoming the 6A Division I state champion this year in the state of Texas. They took the field with a 14-0 record and won the title with a 28-21 nail-biting, spine-tingling victory over Galena Park North Shore Mustangs, bringing home their second state title in program history and the first since 1998. Duncanville is truly the city of champions. The Panthers were victorious under the leadership of a coach par excellence, my friend Reginald Samples, Duncanville High School head football coach, and was named Max Prep's National Coach of the Year and the Texas High School Coaches Association Coach of the Year. He has amassed 300-plus career wins. Young men on the floor and in the gallery, outstanding student athletes, and very dedicated to their class work. Members, on the floor we have with us Coach Samples. Would you raise your hand, Coach Samples? We also have on the floor Vernon Grant III, who's the academic All-State. Vernon, academic All-State. The varsity team captain. We have Noah Pouncey, academic All-State. We have Caden Durham, offensive MVP of the Class 6A Division I champion class of 20, and he will be in the class of 2024, Caden. And we have Colin Sims, defensive MVP of 6A champions, and is also in the class of 2024. Joining the championship team in the gallery are the rest, and I'm going to ask y'all to stand up. All of y'all stand up. The rest of the mighty Panther championship, school administrators, and also parents. Congratulations on winning your first title, and I know you'll be back again next year. Mr. President, y'all stay. How many of you plan on going to college? Raise your hands. Raise your hands high. And to be well equipped to be able to do that also. So again, members, I'd ask unanimous passage of Senate Bill 329.
Chair recognizes Senator Colcourse on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, it must be your year, because isn't this your second state champion football team you brought to the floor?
It is, and I have one more.
There's something going on up there. There is something going on. I want to talk to these men. I want to tell you something. You're a champion. I got to tell you something. I love champions. I love finishing number one, right? And I had the honor of being a state champion way, way back in 1983 with my golf team. And that medal, man, that you wear around your neck, I still have mine. And it is special. And you will tell your children, and you will tell your grandchildren, and you will inspire others. Coach, more important than being a champion on that football team is what I see in these young men today and how they're dressed and the discipline that I see in that. And I want to thank you for being that leader and making a difference in their lives. Because all of us, I will tell you, can point to a teacher. For me, it was a teacher and a coach that made a difference. Made a difference. When I'd hit rock bottom and my father had been killed in a car wreck. And that coach came to my house and he told me that I was going to make it and we weren't going to quit. And that's what coaches and teachers do in our lives. Men, good luck. We'll be following you. Let's go. Keep being champions. God bless you.
All right.
Chair recognizes Senator West to close.
Mr. President, thank you very much. Young men, you see this tie I have on, don't you? I told y'all what this tie represents, right? Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And these men over here in these jackets over here are a member of that organization. And so before you get out of here, you need to make certain you talk to them. Each one of them are college graduates to what you aspire to be. They can give you some life lessons in terms of what the road looks like ahead of you as you navigate the road in order to become successful professionals and in some cases professional athletes. So, Mr. President, members, I move adoption of Senate Resolution 329.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. Resolution's adopted. Members, can we have some order, please? Chair lays out the following resolution. The Secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 323 by King et al., recognizing March 21st, 2023 as World Down Syndrome Day at the state capitol.
Chair recognizes Senator King on the resolution.
Thank you, members. You should have had a pair of strange-looking socks delivered to your office today. And I did check, and although we have a jacket and tie requirement, there is no shoe requirement in the floor of the Senate. So if you've got your crazy socks, let me invite you to take your shoes off for a few minutes. We have some people we want to honor today. I will tell you, this is very special for me in that Terry and I are blessed with 17 grandkids. In fact, 3 of them are pages here today. And 2 of them have Downs. In fact, and their names are Joy and then Sunny, which Sunny is short for sunshine. And they have those names for a reason. Because if you've had any time to be around children or adults with Downs, then you see joy and you see sunshine in them every day. They are remarkable people, and when they are in the right home and the right environment and the right educational setting, then they have opportunities to excel far beyond what would otherwise be possible. And in Texas, we do a good job of that. And so today we've got some special groups here with us I would like to recognize. And by the way, my granddaughter Sunny was going to be here. Terry, as many of you know, was sick in the hospital last week, and she was going to bring Joy down. Joy came down last time we did this and captured everybody's heart. But I think they're watching on TV on the online today. So we have some groups with us that I'd like to recognize, and as I call your name, would you please stand because we want to honor you today. The Down Syndrome Texas Advocates Coalition, Down Syndrome Texas, the Rio Grande Valley Down Syndrome Association, Down by the Border Association, Upside Down Club of Abilene, the ARC of Greater Beaumont, Down Syndrome Association of Central Texas. There's a bunch of them here. This is a big deal for the Down syndrome community to be here today. The ARC of Brown County, Galveston Houston Families Exploring Down Syndrome, Down Syndrome Association of Houston, East Texas Down Syndrome Group, Gigi's Playhouse, El Paso, Down Syndrome Association of South Texas, Down Syndrome Guide of Dallas, Down Syndrome Partnership of North Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, these groups and the people that are with them today work to make Texas a special place for children and adults and families who have Down syndrome with them. And so thank you very, very much for being here. Could we honor you today with an applause? We're just proud that you're here. Thank you. And thanks for what you do for those with Down syndrome. The theme for 2023 is With Us, Not For Us, which promotes human rights-based advocacy approach that emphasizes the right of those with disabilities to be treated fairly and have the same opportunities as others. Members, I want to thank everyone for being a joint author to this resolution. And Mr. President, with your permission, I would move adoption.
Chair recognizes Senator Zaffarini.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members, it is my pleasure to co-author Senate Resolution 323 by Senator King, recognizing World Down Syndrome Day at our state capitol. And thank you, Senator King, for your leadership and for your compassion and for your understanding, everything that you do to promote this issue. This recognition is an opportunity to celebrate the progress we've made while raising awareness about the challenges that many living with Down syndrome may face. Down syndrome is the most commonly occurring chromosomal condition in the United States, affecting 1 of 700 newborns. In the last 60 years, the life expectancy and quality life of those living with it has increased significantly due to medical advances and efforts to improve equality of rights. There are so many examples of those who have this condition and are exemplary role models by meeting notable challenges.
They include Chelsea Werner, a gymnast who won multiple gold medals at the Special Olympics after being unable to walk until 2 years of age. Zach Gasakin, an actor who starred in The Peanut Butter Falcon alongside Shia LaBeouf. And also Sujit Desai, a musician who has mastered 7 instruments and played at Carnegie Hall. There are many others with Down syndrome who are exceptionally talented and who are instrumental in building a stronger culture of inclusion and of respect that can enhance opportunities for all. Let us take time today also to thank family members, advocates, and everyone committed to the pursuit of equality for those with Down syndrome and to celebrate World Down Syndrome Day. Welcome to the Texas Senate, and thank you for the hope and the promise and the challenges that you offer us to face alongside with you. We care about you and will work with you and for you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Senator King. Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Chair recognizes Senator LaMantia.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator King, for bringing this resolution that unites so many people around the world since 2012. Welcome to all of our World Down Syndrome Day advocates. I know I have many constituents joining us today from down by the border, and it's wonderful to have you with us on this special day. Thank you for this resolution, Senator King. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator King to close.
Thank you, members. Down kids are especially special, and move adoption.
Is there objection to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. Chair recognizes Senator Whitmire for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Certainly today is proven to be special as we recognize our Down syndrome families, our Medal of Honor heroes, and our student athletes. We bring a lot of groups to the Senate floor because we respect them and want Texans to know how important they are in our daily lives. I have the opportunity to present today and recognize in the gallery firefighters from across the state. We all know how much in all of our 31 districts, how much firefighters are respected and admired. In fact, some days we have a hard time believing the way they carry out their mission. Most of us just can't even imagine the challenges of watching men and women run into a burning facility on our behalf. So I thought it was very appropriate. This is Texas Firefighter Day. And as I've said, we're honoring heroes today. Whether it's our student athletes, the Medal of Honor, our Down syndrome families, I want to take this special moment to thank firefighters, first responders across this state that I know I could get 31 speeches out of the Senate floor today to express their appreciation, whether it's the largest departments of our major cities or our volunteer firefighters in our smaller rural communities. You play a key role. You allow us to live in safety. And when we're in a crisis, you come to our aid, whether it's a fire or an EMS service call. So thank you for being here. And there are 5 gentlemen that are representing firefighters from all over the state. They're representing the Texas State Association of Firefighters, which was established in 1938, and it's Texas' only professional career firefighters organization, representing over 19,000 firefighters members and 192 affiliate locals. We're affiliated through their Association of Firefighters. So let me introduce these individuals, and like I said, they represent a small sample of the 19,000 that are working as we enjoy our opportunity to serve the state. First, I'm very proud to have a hometown Houston firefighter, the president of the Houston Professional Firefighters Association, Marty Langton. Then joining him is John Riddle, president of the Texas State Association from Conroe. Adrian Alvarado from Laredo, Senator Zaffarini, is the district vice president of the Texas State Association of Firefighters. Bo Simpson from Plano. Nick Hontenbo from Fort Worth. So gentlemen, thank you. I know you represent the finest. Tell your colleagues that we talk about our first responders so much in today's news, so often it gravitates over toward law enforcement. But we recognize as we look out for our law enforcement first responders, we wouldn't be safe and they wouldn't be safe if it wasn't for firefighters backing our law enforcement and backing our families each and every day. So you protect yourself, be safe, but thank you for what you provide to each and every one of us on this floor and the people that we represent. I know, quite frankly, through my experience, and also I've seen polls, I know, members, what people think. The people we represent admire their firefighters and want their firefighters protected and taken care of. And I know you will join me in seeing this legislative body never lets anyone do harm to firefighters. We are always concerned about the defunding of law enforcement. If anybody even thinks about defunding firefighters in any of our communities, we'll be running to your aid. So thank you for being here. Members, help me join these fine 5 outstanding firefighters and their colleagues that are with us today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Whitmire. Senator Zaffarini, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Whitmire, thank you for sponsoring this honor for such wonderful and outstanding men. The men and women who are firefighters in Texas certainly are exemplary role models, and not only do we appreciate them, but equally important, children look up to them. How many of you have seen children who want to go to the fire station, who want to tour a fire truck, who invite the firefighters to their schools? I have very fond memories and pictures of my son when he was 4 years old in a fire truck, visiting our fire station in Laredo. More recently, in fact, last week, I have a picture of my grandsons in a fire truck, visiting one in Senator Colcourt's district, because they so admire firefighters, so much so that, what can I tell you, on Halloween people dress like Spider-Man and Superman and Wonder Woman. My grandsons and their family dress like a family of firefighters, including the fire chief and down to the mascot, showing their true admiration. And it is because everyone knows of your courage, of your commitment, of your devotion to keeping our families safe. And for that, we will always be so grateful to you. I personally, as a senator, am grateful for the work that you have done alongside us. As long as I've been a senator, the firefighters have been there working with us and for us, addressing the issues, educating us about your perspective. I'm particularly grateful to the firefighters from San Antonio, from Houston, and from Laredo, my hometown, and the voluntary firefighters from throughout our district for letting us benefit from your expertise and your insight. Thank you for everything you do and for everything you will do. We appreciate you and respect you, and we need to show it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Springer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Whitmire, for recognizing this outstanding group of individuals. You know, I've had the honor and privilege, before I even got into politics, of becoming a volunteer firefighter in 2005. So for 17 years, have tried to serve my community, although it's hard to answer calls when you're in Austin. But, you know, we just appreciate everything you do for your community. Obviously, we think about fires, but it's extractions, working the jaws of life, pulling somebody out of a car. It's so many other things that we do. It's being there with the EMTs and helping in those critical moments, being able to save lives. And so it's just an honor to recognize every one of the firefighters in the state of Texas, and having y'all here today. It was an honor last session to be able to carry the Lieutenant Governor's priority bill on COVID preemption, Senate Bill 22 back then. For that meant so much, because you guys go into harm's way. You don't have a chance to avoid it. And it was the right thing to do. And we stood by you, and we will always stand by you. So thank you for your service.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Hinojosa, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Whitmire, for recognizing our firefighters. I too grew up in loving your shiny fire trucks. But the reality is you do a lot more than that. You were key during the pandemic. You do more than just put out fires. You're also rescuing cats. And I know for a fact that without the firefighters from the city of McAllen, my house would burn down. And they came and extinguished the fire very quickly before it did and completely burned down the house. So I'm very grateful to our firefighters. And I know as our first responders how important you are to a community, because you do more than just put out fires from homes and businesses. You also save lives. And for me, I also would like to recognize I have two delegations of firefighters here, Senator Whitmire, one from the city of Mission, where I grew up on the East Gallery, and then I have the delegation from city of Corpus Christi, I think up on the North Gallery. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for the work you do. God bless you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Paxton, you're recognized. There you are, Senator. You moved desk on me this year.
I did. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Whitmire, for bringing forth this resolution. And thank you all for what you do. It's great to see my constituent, Bo, here today. And, you do your job, and then you also advocate on behalf of all of those who do the job. You don't ask for much, and it's the least we can do to take care of you guys as you take care of us. We're so thankful for you. Thanks for being here today, and thanks for what you do every day.
Thank you, Senator. Senator LaMantia, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Whitmire, for recognizing all the dedicated firefighters across our state. And I am proud to have some of our firefighters from Senate District 27 here today, including the cities of Corpus Christi, Brownsville, and Harlingen. Thank you all for your bravery and selflessness. You're truly remarkable, and we are deeply grateful for your service. Thank you for this recognition, Senator Whitmire. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Betancourt. Sorry, I didn't see you away from your desk. I was looking at your name.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just working to get these hardworking firefighters some property tax relief. How about that? All right. Thank you. And I just want to say, just to recognize the obvious with Dean Whitmire here of how important you are to the community. If you can win major votes in urban areas about your position like Houston, I'm honored to support the simple concept that the dean has that if we're going to have arbitration, let's have arbitration because you guys have got the backing of the community, and more importantly, it's time to get long-term disputes settled so everyone can focus on saving lives and protecting property. So hats off to y'all, especially to my Houston, fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Alvarado. Senator Alvarado.
Thank you, Mr. President. We might need firefighters. I smell something burning. It smells like popcorn. But anyway, Senator Dean Whitmire, thank you for the recognition. And I know you have a special bill that's making its way through the process that I've been engaged with before with Marty and others, but looking forward to voting for it. We appreciate you. My time on city council, I got to interact with firefighters quite a bit. In fact, I used to make a point to go and visit the fire stations because that's where you really learn about the life of a firefighter. And I would encourage anybody to take the time to do that. It's fun, especially around mealtime. They eat pretty good at the fire station. But we know, too, that it's not just about what you're doing outside of the fire station, but we know that you have people that are needing all sorts of help that come to the fire station for rescue, for any type of help, emergency. And we know that you're a part of the community as well where you work. So we appreciate your public service outside of the fire station, but as well as in and in the community. And Dean Whitmire, thank you again for bringing this important recognition to our public servants here. Thank you.
Senator Blanco. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the Dean for his advocacy for firefighters. You do a great job fighting for their issues here. And I want to thank our firefighters. I do want to recognize our Local 51 in El Paso, our firefighters, Paul Thompson, as well as Efrain Robles, who traveled from El Paso to visit us today. Welcome to your Texas capital. I also want to give a shout out to my cousin, who is the assistant fire chief in El Paso, who, during the pandemic, the fire departments and the fire chiefs managed a lot of the responses for the pandemic. So we want to thank you for that. It's not just about fighting fires. It's a comprehensive response. So thank you all so much, and welcome to the Texas Senate.
Thank you, Senator Blanco. Senator Whitmire, every time I give someone a tour, as I've done 3 times this morning, of the back offices, I tell them about the fire in 1983, and that the fire came, for members who don't know, right almost to that doorway where Reginald just walked through. And the fire chief called the firefighters out to get out of the building because they thought they had lost the fire. And had they left, that fire would have gone through here at the rotunda, and we could have lost the entire building. And those firefighters stayed, and they stopped the fire there. Of course, it did all the damage in the back, as you all know. So the firefighters, you step in when other people say don't go. You run into the fire when people are running out. You climb the ladders to save lives. You do everything that you can, including things like heart attacks when you show up and get someone to the hospital on time. So thank you for what you all do all over the state. Senator Whitmire, you're recognized to close.
And following your comments, I was a member in '89, and we had that terrific fire that had gotten into the attic, and we were told 5 more minutes. If the firemen had been taking them 5 more minutes to respond, we would have lost the Capitol, because it would have gotten to Rotunda, which would have served as an energy source, oxygen as a chimney would. I want to close, Mr. President, by recognizing your support for the firefighters. I do have Senate Bill 736, which is going to require the city of Houston to sit down and respect their firefighters and work with them in arbitration, which the voters of Houston passed and expected the city to treat our firefighters respectfully. So thank you for helping support that piece of legislation. And Chairman Bentoncourt had it in committee yesterday, and I look forward to bringing it to the Senate floor. So thank you, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who has always supported firefighters and assisted us in the representation. So with that, Mr. President, I would thank my colleagues for showing their support and look forward to the opportunity to shake the hand of these firefighters and thank them personally.
And move the adoption of the resolution. Hearing any objection, hearing none. Resolution is adopted. Thank you.
The chair lays out the following resolution. The secretary will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 152 by Schwertner, commending Jennifer Jones on her distinguished tenure of service with the Sunset Advisory Commission.
Chair recognizes Senator Schwertner.
Thank you, Madam President and members. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer Jones to the Senate floor. She is celebrating her years of service as the Sunset Advisory Commission Executive Director. She'd been there for 30 years, I believe, after starting her legislative career here as a Senate messenger. She first joined Sunset in 1993 and advanced steadily until again being ultimately named as the agency's first female executive director. During her time at Sunset, Jennifer managed and supervised Sunset reviews in major policy areas, including transportation, health and human services, business and economic development, public safety, criminal justice, and education. In addition to her leadership at Sunset, Jennifer has held several leadership positions with the National Conference of State Legislators. The staff of the Sunset Commission up here, please stand, y'all, all right, are grateful for Jennifer's intellect, dedication, and compassion in her leadership in guiding their work to ensure Sunset achieves its mission to produce high-quality agency reviews for the legislature and for the people of Texas. She is a true champion of public service and a servant leader in every sense of the word. With her today on the floor is her husband, Marshall, her mother, Marilyn, and her brother, Derek. Mr. President, members, please again join me in congratulating Jennifer Jones for her years of service to the state of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Members, the motion is on the resolution. Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is adopted. Thank you, Senator. Chair lays out the following resolution. Secretary, read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 333 by West, recognizing the Lone Star Qs of the 9th District of Omega Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
You're recognized, Senator West.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and members. I proudly rise to recognize the esteemed members of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, of which I am a proud member for almost 52 years. Crossing the burning sands in June of 1971 on the campus of UT Arlington. I was number 14 on the Invincible Caravan. I was the original tail dog. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated is an international fraternity with over 750 undergraduate and graduate chapters. The fraternity was founded on November 17th, 1911 by 3 Howard University juniors, Edgar Amos Love, Oscar James Cooper, Frank Coleman, and their faculty advisor, Dr. Ernest Everett Just. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity is the first predominantly African-American fraternity to be founded at an historically black university. Since its founding, Omega's stated purpose has been to attract and build a strong and effective force of men dedicated to its cardinal principles of manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. Throughout the world, many notable members are recognized as leaders in the arts, academics, athletics, entertainment, business, and civil rights, education, government, and science fields. A few notable members, Mr. President, would include Benjamin Mays, Langston Hughes, Count Basie, Roy Wilkins, Benjamin Hooks, Vernon Jordan, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, Tom Joyner, NASA astronaut Ron McNair, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, just to name a few. These men are here today as part of over 250,000 men throughout this entire United States, the Bahamas, Bermuda, Virgin Islands. These men are here today to meet with their state senators and talk to them about different issues that they would like for you to consider their position on. We have with us today, Mr. President, the president of the Lone Star Qs, and I'm going to ask him to stand up. Bernard Simmons. Bernard. I'm going to ask Antonio Brown, who's the first vice president. Second vice president, Willie Henderson. Secretary, Kevin Randolph. Treasurer, the money man, Charles Lovelace. Director of Public Relations, Michonne Edwards. The chaplain, Ernest Brown. Parliamentarian, Glenn Gowans. And the immediate past president, John Cooper. And I'm going to ask all the Lone Star Qs of the 9th District of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity to stand up so we can recognize you. Please stand up. Members of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So, Mr. President.
Yes.
So, members, when you need to have different opinions about issues, these men are here to provide you their perspective on issues that you're considering, and hopefully it will become a part of your deliberation. I think that was pretty good right there.
Yeah. You said Count Basie, right?
Count Basie.
I heard all the other names, but I hung on Count Basie.
I got that.
Now that's music.
Okay, but please take advantage of utilizing this resource to have input into your process, your deliberation process.
Members, the motion is on the resolution. Any objection? Hearing none. Resolution is adopted. Thank you,
Thank you,
Senator
brothers, for being here.
Thank you all for being here. Chair lays out the following resolution. Secretary, read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 326 by Perry, recognizing March 21st, 2023 as Angelo State University Day at the state capitol.
Senator Perry, that is the first university campus I ever visited when I moved to Texas, because that's where the Houston Oilers used to train in the summertime when I was a sportscaster many, many, many years ago.
Well, you know, they were glad to have you on campus that day. I wish you would have stayed there and got your degree, but you were probably a little older when you showed up on that first campus there.
A little bit. I just remember the thermometer said 108 degrees, and I went over to Zettner's daughter's restaurant and stayed in the air conditioning while they were doing 2-a-days and pads.
That's right. I hear you. That's an establishment in itself. Today we have with us the distinguished representatives and students of Angelo State University. Founded in 1928 as San Angelo Junior College in San Angelo, Texas, with an initial enrollment of 112 students. Today, the university houses 10,500 students, employs over 900 faculty and staff. School adopted the name of Angelo State College in 1965 and was finally named Angelo State University in 1969. A proud member of the Texas Tech University system since 2007, ASU offers over 100 majors, including an essential commercial aviation program, as well as experts in cybersecurity curriculum. ASU has 6 colleges of study and established ASU Distinguished Scholarship Program. ASU offers many degrees in the field of agriculture, economics, ag science, animal science, range and wildlife management, food science degrees, and it's so fitting today that we recognize them on National Agricultural Day. What an appropriate time to have that. ASU President in the gallery, y'all stand up. ASU President Ronnie Hawkins, Vice President of External Affairs Jamie Mayer, and Chancellor Emeritus Robert Duncan. I don't see, he has vacated there. He was there earlier. Along with students gathered in the gallery, would please rise and recognize and welcome to your state capitol. Thank you guys for joining us, and I appreciate what you do for that regional quality, first-class education offered that a lot of kids wouldn't have if it weren't for ASU, but you have a bigger footprint than you've ever had, and it looks good for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Perry. Good to have you with us. Still 108 in the summertime out there when you're on campus? Occasionally, right? All right. The motion is on the adoption of the resolution. Any objection? Hearing none. Resolution is adopted. Chair lays out the following resolution. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Resolution 324 by Menendez, recognizing March 21st, 2023 as Texas Affiliation of Affordable Housing Providers Day at the state capitol.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, it is my honor to introduce an organization that supports Texans all over the state of Texas with one of the most important things, their dream to one day own a home for themselves. And members, if you could please help me welcome the Texas Affiliation of Affordable Housing Providers. They're sitting here in the southeast corner. Let me tell you a little bit about them. They are a nonprofit trade association serving affordable housing industry providers with the principal goal to increase the supply and quality of affordable housing for all Texans, especially those with a limited income and special needs. Founded in 1997, TAP is considered the voice of affordable housing in Texas and represents housing industry professionals involved in the financing, design, development, and management of affordable housing communities in the state of Texas. Through public-private partnerships and for more than 3 decades, TAP has produced tens of thousands of award-winning affordable housing communities with state-of-the-art designs, amenities, and residential services. Today, TAP has seen the exponential growth and diversity amongst its membership, which ranges from attorneys, accountants, nonprofit developers, investors, syndicators, property management companies, market analysts, housing finance corporations, vendors, entities, student trade associations, and other housing advocates. In this skyrocketing housing markets, nonprofits like Texas Affiliation of Affordable Housing Providers give every Texan a chance to have the American dream right here in Texas. So members, please help me in recognizing them today on March 21st as the Texas Affiliation of Affordable Housing Providers here at their state capitol. Thank you for the hard work that you do. We have the leadership here, the executive director, their president, and others here with them. And so we're glad to have you. Welcome to your state Senate. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator.
Members.
Any objection? Hearing none. Resolution is adopted. Thank you for being with us. Senator LaMantia, you are recognized for an introduction on the Texas Adoptee Rights Group.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, it is my pleasure to recognize today the Texas Adoptee Rights Advocates here at the Texas State Capitol. The advocates groups are here to advocate for how vital it is to acknowledge that access to records plays a critical role in enabling adoptees to get a deeper understanding of their medical history, cultural heritage, and family background, which in turn can foster a greater sense of identity and self-awareness. Today, we are joined by Support Texas Adoptee Rights, Adoption Knowledge Affiliates, Texas Adoptee Rights Coalitions, representatives of adoption agencies, some adoptees along with their birth and adoptive parents who have been advocating for transparency and fairness for adoptees statewide. Will everyone representing these groups please stand so we can welcome you? Welcome.
Good to have you with us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Following bills and resolutions on first reading in reference to committee, the Secretary will read the bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 2483 by Paxton relating to the establishment of an education savings account program to education. Senate Bill 2539 by Creighton et al. Relating to the administration, coordination, and support of public higher education to the Subcommittee on Higher Education.
Members, if no objection, I'd like to postpone the further reading of referral of bills to the end of today's session. Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Following motion in writing, Secretary will read the motion.
Motion in writing. Mr. President, I move to suspend Senate Rule 11.13 so that committees may meet during the reading and referral of bills. Motion by Hall.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Following message from the Governor, the Secretary will read the message.
To the Senate of the 88th Legislature regular session, I ask the advice, consent, and confirmation of the Senate with respect to the following appointments to be members of the Texas Forensic Science Commission: Patrick Buzzini, Spring, PhD, Dr. Michael D. Coble Keller, Dr. Nancy R. Downing, College Station, Dr. Jasmine M. Drake, Houston. Respectfully submitted, Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas, to nominations.
Chair recognizes Senator Springer for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my honor to welcome the Texas Association for the Gifted and Talented, who are joining us in the gallery today. Formed in 1978, the Texas Association for the Gifted and Talented connects and empowers educators and parents to meet the unique needs of gifted and talented students. Currently, in Texas, there are more than 430,000 students identified as gifted and talented. We have association board member and gifted and talented teachers joining us in the gallery today. And if y'all please stand up while I introduce you. We have President Christina Dearman, also a constituent of Senate District 30. President-elect Matt Fugate, Executive Director Paulina Van Edenhill and her son Porter, Emily Armstrong, Kristen Graham, and Megan Kaufman. Thank you for the support. Thank you for supporting our Texas students. And thank you for being here today. And we welcome you to your Texas Capitol. Thank you.
Members, that concludes the morning call. Senator Paxton is recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on Senate Bill 718.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business to take up and consider Senate Bill 718. Many Texas children have parents who share custody due to a divorce. In Texas family court, if one parent is determined to have been falsely accused of neglect, judges are currently not required to ensure that the falsely accused parent gets back the custody time that they missed with their child during the investigation of the false allegation. Senate Bill 718 simply seeks to remedy and prevent injustice for fit parents who face unfounded allegations that impact child custody. If a parent is found to have been falsely accused of neglect, Senate Bill 718 will require judges to grant a parent the custody time they missed out on because of the false accusations. I move suspension of the Senate's regular order of business.
Senator Paxton moves suspension of the regular order of business on Senate Bill 718. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second reading Senate Bill 718. The secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 718 relating to additional periods of possession of or access to a child and to compensate for denial of court-ordered possession or access.
Senator Paxton is recognized for a motion.
I move passage of Senate Bill 718 to engrossment.
Senator Paxton moves passage to engrossment. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Paxton is recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
I move to suspend the constitutional rule that bills be read on 3 several days.
Senator Paxton moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hall, Hancock.
There'll be 31 ayes and no nays. The rules are suspended. The chair lays out for third reading and final passage of Senate Bill 718. The secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 718 relating to additional periods of possession of or access to a child to compensate for denial of court-ordered possession or access.
Senator Paxton is recognized for a motion.
I move final passage of Senate Bill 718.
Senator Hinojosa, for what purpose?
Senator Paxton, yield for a question.
For Senator Paxton, yield.
Of course.
Now, Senator Paxton, when you plan to give additional periods of possession of access to a child to compensate for the denial of court order possession or access, I would imagine that that would require a hearing before the court.
This only applies to a situation where an allegation has been made against a parent. The allegation has been investigated and been found false. So this is all formally done. This parent is cleared of the allegation, and this just requires that the parent be given back the time that they lost during the investigation.
Got it. Thank you so much for your explanation.
Thank you for your question, Senator.
Senator Paxton moves final passage of Senate Bill 718. Secretary, call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez.
There'll be 31 ayes and no nays. The bill is finally passed. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
Senator Zaffarini is recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 61.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members, I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business to take up and consider at this time the committee substitute for Senate Bill 61 relating to the methods by which the comptroller may provide notice of a hearing on the revocation or suspension or the revocation or suspension of a permit or license. Members, when a person or an entity violates state tax statutes, the comptroller may, after a hearing, suspend or revoke any permit or license issued. This process is inefficient, expensive, and could be done electronically. Senate Bill 61 would modernize the comptroller's notification procedures to increase efficiency and to reduce mailing costs. Generally, at the option of the permit or license holder, it would authorize the comptroller to send notice of hearing or decision to revoke or suspend the person's permit or license electronically. It would align the electronic notice with current mailing practices, and at the option of the corporation, authorize electronic notifications for notices of corporate privilege forfeiture. Mr. President, I move suspension.
Senator Zaffarini moves suspension of the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 61. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second reading committee substitute for Senate Bill 61. Secretary, read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 61 relating to the methods by which the controller may provide certain notices relating to the revocation or suspension of a permit or license in this state.
Senator Zaffarini is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage to engrossment.
Senator Zaffarini moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Zaffarini is recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Senator Zaffarini moves suspension of the 3-day rule. The Secretary call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckert, Flores,
There'll be
Gutierrez.
31 ayes and no nays. The rules are suspended. The chair lays out on third reading and final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 61. Secretary, read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 61 relating to methods by which the controller may provide certain notices relating to the revocation or suspension of a permit or license or the forfeiture of corporate privileges in this state.
Senator Zaffarini is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move final passage.
Senator Zaffarini moves final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 61. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckert, Flores,
There'll be
Gutierrez.
31 ayes and no nays. The bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Senator Colkhorst is recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 1032.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business and take up and consider at this time committee substitute to Senate Bill 1032. Members,
Excuse me. Go ahead. Proceed.
Members, currently leases are limited to Galveston Bay, but this bill allows the department to expand and create guidelines for the program to be used for restoration purposes for groups that want to help support oyster restoration. Statute can already allow expansion from a commercial harvesting perspective if it meets all the requirements and is allowed by the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and the General Land Office. It calls for the agency to work with the Department of State Health Services, the General Land Office, in considering these expansions. This bill adds oyster reefs to be harvested that are not currently available to be harvested. And members, I will offer an amendment that builds off of the feedback that we heard in committee from the oyster industry. And with that, Mr. President, I move to suspend the regular order of business.
Senator Colkhorst moves suspension of the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 1032. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. Chair lays out on second reading committee substitute for Senate Bill 1032. The Secretary read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 1032 relating to oyster certificates of location.
Following amendment, Secretary read the amendment.
Floor amendment number 1 by Colkhorst.
Chair recognizes Senator Colkhorst.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this amendment makes small changes regarding lease renewals. In Water, Ag, and Rural Affairs, we heard from those in the oyster industry who wanted to ensure that they had the best chance of retaining leases that they had invested significant time and talent. Members of the oyster industry requested this slight change in wording. In the amendment, the language of renewal is removed from right of refusal to right to renew if the lease is renewed. I move adoption.
Is there objection to the adoption of the amendment? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted. The chair lays out on second. Senator Kokor's recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage of committee substitute as amended to Senate Bill 1032 to engrossment.
Senator Kolkhorst moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing none, bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Kolkhorst is recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved, Mr. President.
Senator Kolkhorst moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez.
31 ayes and no nays. The chair lays out on third reading and final passage a committee substitute Senate Bill 1032. The secretary read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 1032 relating to oyster certificates of location.
Senator Kolkhorst recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage, final passage of committee substitute to Senate Bill 1032.
Senator Kolkhorst moves final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 1032. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez.
31 yeas and no nays. The bill is finally passed. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
Senator Birdwell is recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on SJR 52.
So moved, Mr. President. Members, this is the SJR for the update to the call of the convention for an Article 5 convention to the Congress. I move suspension, Mr. President.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hall, Hancock, and
There be 19 yeas and 12 nays. The rules are suspended. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage of SJR 52. Secretary read the caption.
SJR 52, extending the deadline for the automatic rescission of certain applications made by the Texas legislature to the United States Congress to call a national convention under Article 5 of the United States Constitution.
Senator Birdwell is recognized for a motion.
Move final passage, Mr. President.
Senator Birdwell moves final passage of SJR 52. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hall, Hancock.
Be 19 yeas and 12 nays. The bill is finally passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members.
Senator Johnson is recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on Senate Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 271.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate Bill 271 addresses the problem of cyber attacks, the growing threat of cyber attacks. It provides that our municipal bodies need to report cyber attacks, hacking, similar incidences of cybersecurity threats to the Department of Information Resources within 48 hours. This is precisely the same standard that we apply to our state agencies. It comes at the request of the Department of Information Resources. We've worked closely with municipalities throughout the state to address any concerns regarding cost or difficulty in implementation. Those have been resolved. Members, I move to suspend the regular order of business to take up and consider Senate Bill 271.
Senator Johnson moves suspension of the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 271. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second reading committee substitute for Senate Bill 271. The secretary read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 271 relating to state agency and local government security incident procedures.
Senator Johnson is recognized for a motion.
Members, I move passage to third reading.
Senator Johnson moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Johnson is recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
So moved.
Senator Johnson moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hall, Hancock.
There'll be 31 yeas and no nays. The rules are suspended. The chair lays out on third reading and final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 271. Secretary read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 271 relating to state agency and local government security incident procedures.
Senator Johnson is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move final passage.
Senator Johnson moves final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 271. The secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores,
There'll be
Gutierrez.
31 ayes and no nays. The bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members.
Senator Zaffarini is recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute Senate Bill 656.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members, I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business to take up and consider at this time the committee substitute for Senate Bill 656 relating to an optional health condition or disability designation on a driver's license or personal identification certificate. Members, this bill would allow persons to request that DPS include a designation on the person's license or personal ID indicating a health condition or disability, including mental illness or intellectual and developmental disability, that may impede effective communication with a peace officer, and clarify that the verification of a condition or disability can be provided by a licensed physician, including a licensed psychiatrist. Mr. President, I move suspension.
Senator Zaffarini moves suspension on the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 656. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second motion for committee substitute Senate Bill 656. Secretary read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 656 relating to an optional health condition or disability designation on a driver's license or personal identification certificate.
Senator Zaffarini is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage to engrossment.
Senator Zaffarini moves passage to engrossment. Is there objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Zaffarini is recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Thank you, Mr. President. So moved.
Senator Zaffarini moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores.
With 31 ayes and no nays, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on third reading and final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 656. Secretary read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 656 relating to an optional health condition or disability designation on a driver's license or personal identification certificate.
Senator Zaffarini is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move final passage.
Senator Zaffarini moves final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 656. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hall.
There'll be 31 ayes and no nays. The bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Senator Kolkhorst is recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 811.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business and take up and consider at this time Senate Bill 811. Members, in 2021, the legislature passed Senate Bill 15 to protect consumer data from being shared by state agencies. One unintended consequences of the legislation was it placed restrictions on the ability of Texas Parks and Wildlife and Animal Health Commission to notify nearby landowners about outbreaks of wildlife diseases. Texas Parks and Wildlife determined that the legislation was necessary to clarify the authority of the department to notify nearby landowners of outbreaks. The bill amends the Agriculture Code to authorize the disclosure of information regarding reportable wildlife disease outbreak location and nature made aware by the Commission to be shared with each owner of adjacent property and the Texas Parks and Wildlife. The bill amends Parks and Wildlife Code to authorize the disclosure of information regarding reportable wildlife disease outbreak, location, nature made aware, and to not just the landowner, but to the Texas Animal Health Commission. The bill amends Parks and Wildlife Code to allow for TPNW to disclose information to the agency to carry out its governmental purpose. Mr. President, I move to suspend the regular order of business.
Senator Kolkhorst moves suspension of the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 811. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second reading a committee substitute for Senate Bill 811. Secretary, read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 811 relating to disclosure of certain information by the Parks and Wildlife Department or the Texas Animal Health Commission.
Senator Kolkhorst is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move passage of committee substitute Senate Bill 811 to engrossment.
Senator Kolkhorst moves passage to engrossment. Is there an objection? Hearing none, the bill is passed to engrossment. Senator Kolkhorst is recognized for a motion to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Thank you, Mr. President. So moved.
Senator Kolkhorst moves suspension of the 3-day rule. Secretary, will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores.
31 ayes and no nays. The rules are suspended. The chair lays out on third reading and final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 811. The secretary read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 811 relating to disclosure of certain information by the Parks and Wildlife Department or the Texas Animal Health Commission.
Senator Kolkhorst is recognized for a motion.
I move final passage of committee substitute to Senate Bill 811.
Senator Kolkhorst moves final passage of committee substitute for Senate Bill 811. The secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hall.
31 ayes and no nays. The bill is finally passed. Congratulations, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, members.
Senator Hughes is recognized for a motion to suspend the regular order of business on Senate Bill 896.
Thank you, Mr. President. And members, I move to suspend the Senate's regular order of business to take up and consider at this time Senate Bill 896. Senators, this has to do with our anti-SLAPP statute and curbing abuses brought under that act. In 2011, Texas passed the Citizen Participation Act to protect against SLAPPs. And some of you will recall a SLAPP is a strategic lawsuit against public participation. Those lawsuits are filed to intimidate or silence public participation in government proceedings or matters of public concern. And so you'll recall how this works. Under the Act, when a defendant in a lawsuit files a motion to dismiss under the anti-SLAPP statute, it stops all discovery in all pretrial proceedings. If a party appeals the lower court's ruling, all pretrial proceedings continue to be automatically paused until the appellate court rules on the motion. Now, this can result in legal proceedings coming to a halt for months. In testimony before the committee, we've heard of cases where the parties were approaching trial. Months of discovery and preparation have taken place, and then as we get closer to trial, a frivolous SLAPP claim is made that stops the whole proceeding in at least one case for over 18 months. Now, back in 2019, the legislature tried to eliminate the misuse by adding some specific legal claims that were exempt from the anti-SLAPP law, but it didn't stop bad actors from filing frivolous motions to dismiss just so they could delay litigation. So Senate Bill 896 is an effort to curb the abuses of our anti-SLAPP statute while still preserving the important work of protecting free speech and protecting citizen participation. So here's what the bill would do. Senate Bill 896 would solve this issue by lifting that automatic stay on pretrial matters during an appeal on a motion to dismiss if it's filed in one of three areas. One, if the lower court finds that the anti-SLAPP motion to dismiss was not timely filed, if it wasn't filed on time, then you shouldn't stop the whole lawsuit waiting for an appellate court to decide that. Number two, if the lower court finds it was frivolous or filed solely to delay the proceedings. In those cases, it doesn't really make sense to stop the whole lawsuit. And then, if the lower court finds that the motion to dismiss is filed over a legal claim that is exempt from the anti-SLAPP statute. I apologize for all the double and triple negatives, but that's what this is about. This is about the reforms we made in 2019, and now with the experience of a couple of years of litigation, we see more work needs to be done. So in those three cases, this bill would allow the case to go forward in those narrow scenarios. And so we're telling those bad actors who want to abuse this anti-SLAPP statute that you can't do that. You cannot misuse this law and grind litigation to a halt. And we're also telling the public that it's important for us to protect your exercise of your constitutional rights. That's important. We're going to continue that protection in place. So this bill restores the intended use of this automatic stay of legal proceedings for those defendants who have a genuine claim to file motions to dismiss under the anti-SLAPP statute while ending the abuse of the system. I apologize for the lengthy description, and I move suspension of the Senate's regular order of business.
Senator Hinojosa, for what purpose?
Will Senator Hughes yield for questions?
Senator, will you yield?
Of course I'll yield.
Thank you, Senator Hughes. And you're not anti-SLAPP person. You support the anti-SLAPP legislation.
That's right. It's very important we have this protection on freedom of speech. I believe you're right.
And you're more focused on the abuses that are actually taking place in that defendants just filed the anti-SLAPP motion just to stop discovery or delay the lawsuit.
Senator, that's exactly right. We're talking about abuses where, as you say, just to stop, just to delay, which raises the cost for everyone. That's exactly right.
And the case itself can proceed to discovery if there is an appeal on one of the three categories that you described, while the case will be to appeal, or the anti-SLAPP motion will be on appeal to the Court of Appeals.
Senator, that's right. And as you know, an interlocutory appeal is unusual, right? Normally, we go through the trial, and then after there's a verdict, then we appeal. We don't just stop the lawsuit every time somebody has an objection. So it's a really powerful weapon, and we want to make sure it's not being abused. You're exactly right.
And in those cases where there is a anti-SLAPP motion filed, and the judge discovers or makes a ruling that it's without merit and frivolous, are there any sanctions against the attorneys filing the motion?
So the provision is there, but we don't know if it's being used. There certainly ought to be.
So right now, the judge has a discretion to ask for either attorney's fees or some type of sanction against the plaintiff who abuses this process.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Thank you for your legislation and explanation.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Hughes moves suspension of the regular order of business on Senate Bill 896. Is there objection? Hearing none, the rules are suspended. The chair lays out on second reading of Senate Bill 896. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 896, relating to the automatic stay of proceedings pending an interlocutory appeal of a denial of a motion to dismiss in an action involving the exercise of certain constitutional rights.
Following amendment, the Secretary will read the amendment.
Floor Amendment Number 1 by Johnson.
Senator Johnson, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this amendment adds a word to the first paragraph regarding timeliness. Senator Hughes and I have discussed this bill. It's a very good bill that does prevent the weaponization of a very important defense that we have, because when you weaponize a defense, you might lose the defense, and we're preserving an important constitutional right under the First Amendment. However, there are instances when what might seem obvious isn't obvious, and timeliness of a filing is one such instance. We actually have appellate court decisions on where trial courts have been reversed on the question of whether or not something was timely filed. And it's because we have conflicting statutory schemes sometimes that make that question unclear. This amendment would add a little additional threshold to the finding by the trial court judge. They can't just say it wasn't timely filed. They have to find it was clearly not timely filed. And where it's clearly not timely filed, that's not the kind of thing that's going to be up on an interlocutory appeal. So I feel like it gives a little bit more protection to defendants who are truly trying to defend their right of free speech, who have a legitimate argument about timeliness, as distinguished from those who are making a frivolous argument. And that's what this amendment seeks to do, and ask whether Senator Hughes would accept the amendment.
The chair recognizes Senator Eckhart. For what purpose?
So the author of the amendment?
Senator Johnson, do you yield?
I do.
Thank you so much for this amendment. I think that it's very helpful. Is the intention in adding the word clearly to essentially say that the litigant failed to timely file and knowingly failed to timely file, going to Senator Hughes' intention for the bill, merely seeking delay in making a motion outside of time?
It needn't be knowingly, because that would be the level of frivolous. But if there is a question, if there's a competing statutory scheme and they have a colorable argument that, no, this really was timely filed, I know technically it didn't meet this requirement, but it meets that requirement, I want the judge to make that affirmative finding, that clearly you were not timely. There's no dispute here.
Thank you so much for answering my question.
Thank you for the question, Senator Eckert.
Chair recognizes Senator Hughes on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I thank the Senator Johnson for the amendment and Senator Eckhart for her question. A number of senators we had these discussions. I believe that Senator Johnson's amendment clarifies and improves the bill, and it is acceptable to the author.
Senator Hughes.
The motion is on the amendment. Acceptable to the author?
Yes, sir.
Any objection? Hearing none, amendment is adopted. You're now recognized to engrossment.
Mr. President, I move passage to engrossment.
Bill passed to engrossment. You're recognized to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule. No.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the constitutional rule that bills
Hold on
for several days.
Hold on one second. Bill passed to engrossment. There was no objection. Now you're recognized to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the constitutional rule that bills be read on 3 several days.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado Benton.
31 ayes, no nays. The 3-day rule is suspended. Chair lays out in third reading and final passage Senate Bill 896. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 896 relating to the automatic stay of proceedings pending an interlocutory appeal.
You're recognized on final.
Mr. President, I move final passage.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell.
31 ayes, no nays. The bill is finally passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members.
Senator Perry, you're recognized to suspend the regular order of business on committee substitute for Senate Bill 159.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, currently to be eligible to take the CPA exam, an applicant must hold a bachelor's or graduate degree, complete 150 semester hours of college credit in a board-recognized course, including at least 30 semester hours of accounting courses. Senate Bill 159 amends the number of hours to 120 to sit for the exam, and that includes at least 24 of those semester hours being accounting. You still will have to have 150 semester hours to receive a certificate. With that, I move to suspend the regular order of business.
Any objection? Hearing none, regular order of business suspended. Chair lays out in second reading. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 159. Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 159 relating to eligibility requirements for a certified public accountant certificate and to take the uniform CPA examination.
You're recognized on passage to engrossment.
Move passage to engrossment.
Any objection? Hearing none, Bill passed to engrossment. You're recognized to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Move to suspend the constitutional 3-day rule.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell.
31 ayes, no nays. Rule suspended. Chair lays out third reading and final passage. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 159. Secretary will read the caption.
Committee substitute Senate Bill 159 relating to eligibility requirements for a certified public accountant certificate.
Move passage.
You passed this bill faster than you finished a tax return, Senator. Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell.
31 ayes, no nays. Thank you, Senator.
Appreciate it.
Following motion in writing, Secretary, read the motion.
Mr. President, I move suspension of Senate Rule 5.14, the intent calendar rule, in order to move the intent calendar deadline to 4 p.m. today. Motion by Betancourt.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is adopted. Members, the President's desk is clear, but we'll have to wait for a few senators to make announcements who are not on the floor. You're recognized for an announcement, Senator Schwartner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, the Senate Committee on Business and Commerce will reconvene 15 minutes upon adjournment at E1.012. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Creighton for an announcement. For a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the posting rules to add Senate Bill 2483 by Senator Paxton to the agenda for the Senate Education Committee hearing tomorrow, March 22nd at 9 a.m. in E1028. Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I move suspension.
Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is adopted. Senator Hinojosa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just an announcement. The work group for Senate Finance, Article 1, Article 4, and Article 5 will be meeting in about 20 minutes. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Any other announcements? Chair recognizes the Dean of the Senate for a highly privileged motion.
President, members, I move that the Senate adjourn until 11 a.m. Wednesday, March 22nd, pending the reading and referral of bills. Thank you.
Any objection? Hearing none, the Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. Wednesday, March 22nd, pending the reading and referral of bills. Thank you, members.
Senate Bill 1951 by Betancourt relating the procedure for duplicating ballots for automatic counting to state affairs. Senate Bill 1952 by Hughes and Parker relating to advance directives and healthcare treatment decisions made by or on behalf of patients to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 1953 by Zaffarini relating to a Centers of Excellence program developed by the Texas Judicial Council to finance. Senate Bill 1954 by Zaffarini relating the essential knowledge and skills of the public school foundational curriculum for civics, education, and social studies to education. Senate Bill 1955 by Parker relating to the regulation of industrial housing and buildings to business and commerce. Senate Bill 1956 by Parker relating to an exemption from ad valorem taxation of the residence homestead of a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient to local government. Senate Bill 1956 by Parker and LaMantia relating to the accountability system for public school educator preparation programs to education. Senate Bill 1958 by Parker relating to certain procedural requirements for public improvement districts to local government. Senate Bill 1959 by Flores relating to the authority of a physician to supervise or delegate the prescribing or ordering of a drug or device to a physician assistant to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 1960 by Perry relating to the carrying of weapons by community supervision and correctional department officers to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1961 by Perry relating to criminal liability for taking a weapon from a juvenile probation officer to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1962 by Zaffarini relating to the authority of certain counties to order the microchipping of dogs to local government. Senate Bill 1963 by Alvarado relating to the qualified allocation plan and manual adopted for the allocation of low-income housing tax credits to local government. Senate Bill 1964 by Alvarado relating to the definition of closing for purposes of certain private activity bonds to business and commerce. Senate Bill 1965 by Alvarado relating to requirements for the purchase or acquisition of certain water and sewer systems to water, agricultural, and rural affairs. Senate Bill 1966 by Alvarado relating to a grant program for school-based health care initiatives to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 1967 by Perry, Betancourt, and Paxton relating to compensation and leave for certain employees of the Office of Inspector General of the Texas Juvenile Justice Department to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1968 by Betancourt relating to required reporting of certain discretionary prosecutorial decisions of prosecuting attorneys to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1969 by Betancourt relating to increasing the criminal penalty for certain offenses committed on or near the premises of a daycare center to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1970 by Betancourt relating to the prosecution of certain criminal conduct involving a reckless driving exhibition to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1971 by Betancourt relating to liability of judges and magistrates for the improper release on personal bond of defendants accused of committing certain felony offenses to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1972 by Betancourt relating to employment and retirement consequences for an educator convicted of or placed on deferred adjudication community supervision for the sale, distribution, or display of harmful materials to a minor to finance. Senate Bill 1973 by Betancourt relating to criminal history record information for certain special master, magistrate, referee, or other court official applicants appointed or employed by state judges to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1974 by Miles relating to the creation of the Texas Advanced Research Institute to finance. Senate Bill 1975 by Miles relating to the delegation of authority to issue permits for nuclear power reactor operators to business and commerce. Senate Bill 1976 by Miles relating to the consideration of criminal history record information of applicants for public employment or an occupational license to business and commerce. Senate Bill 1977 by Springer relating to the eligibility of certain children enrolled in a special education program for pre-kindergarten programs to education. Senate Bill 1978 by Miles relating to the Dentist and Dental Hygienist Compact to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 1979 by Hughes relating to requiring certain entities to report purchases of single-family homes to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 1980 by Blanco et al. Relating to the creation of a Texas conditional driver's permit to transportation. Senate Bill 1981 by Zaffarini relating to the relationship between dentists and certain employee benefit plans and health insurers to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 1982 by La Mantilla relating to the supervision of students during a recess period provided by a public school to education. Senate Bill 1983 by Nichols, Colcorson, and Schwertner relating to charges imposed for costs related to Winter Storm Uri to finance. Senate Bill 1984 by Alvarado and Blanco relating to public-private partnerships for public and private facilities and infrastructure to business and commerce. Senate Bill 1985 by Hughes relating to the establishment of a committee to study the formation of a Texas Bicentennial Commission to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 1986 by Hughes relating to prohibiting the acquisition or use of certain unmanned aircraft by a governmental entity to business and commerce. Senate Bill 1987 by Sparks relating to the accreditation of certain post-secondary educational institutions in this state to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 1988 by Perry relating to water loss and water delivery systems for certain municipally owned water utilities to Water, Agriculture, and Rural Affairs. Senate Bill 1989 by Whitmire relating to the source of dogs and cats sold by pet stores to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1990 by Betancourt relating to the procedure for selecting a provider of professional services by certain water districts to local government. Senate Bill 1991 by Betancourt relating to the authorization of disbursements by the Board of Directors of the North Harris County Regional Water Authority to local government. Senate Bill 1992 by Perry relating to remotely conducting depositions, hearings, and other proceedings in juvenile cases to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1993 by Middleton et al. Relating to the authority of the Secretary of State to order a new election in certain counties to state affairs. Senate Bill 1994 by Middleton relating to vote harvesting to state affairs. Senate Bill 1995 by Middleton relating to requiring a general custodian of election records to adopt procedures for public inspection of voted ballots to state affairs. Senate Bill 1996 by Whitmire relating to certain personnel policies of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to criminal justice. Senate Bill 1997 by Betancourt relating to the calculation of the ad valorem tax rate of a taxing unit to local government. Senate Bill 1998 by Betancourt relating to the calculation of certain ad valorem tax rates to local government. Senate Bill 1999 by Betancourt relating to the calculation of the unused increment rate of a taxing unit to local government. Senate Bill 2000 by Whitmire relating to the commissioning of peace officers by certain parochial schools in certain counties to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2001 by Hall relating to the security of election systems to state affairs. Senate Bill 2002 by Hall relating to a limitation on the generation capacity provided by the ERCOT power grid from wind and solar generation facilities to business and commerce. Senate Bill 2003 by Hall relating to counting certain voted ballots by hand to state affairs. Senate Bill 2004 by West relating to the designation of fentanyl poisoning for purposes of the death certificate to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2005 by La Mantilla relating to the form of an appraisal review board order determining a protest to local government. Senate Bill 2006 by La Mantilla relating to the authority of certain municipalities to authorize and finance certain venue projects to natural resources and economic development. Senate Bill 2007 by La Mantilla relating to the use of the revenue derived from the municipal hotel occupancy tax to natural resources and economic development. Senate Bill 2008 by Colcourse relating to operating requirements for foreign mutual insurance companies to business and commerce. Senate Bill 2009 by Sparks relating to access to certain information in the adoption process and information in certain investigations conducted by the Department of Family and Protective Services to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2016 by Zaffarini relating to the licensing and regulation of dietitians to business and commerce. Senate Bill 2017 by Zaffarini relating to the regulation of hearing aids to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2018 by Flores relating to prohibitions on camping in a public place to local government. Senate Bill 2019 by Paxton relating to increasing the minimum term of imprisonment and changing the eligibility for community supervision to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2020 by Paxton relating to the creation of the criminal offense of mass terroristic threat to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2021 by Paxton relating to requirements for certain internet websites containing sexual material harmful to minors to state affairs. Senate Bill 2022 2022 by Perry relating the liability of entities contracted with the Department of Family and Protective Services to provide community-based care or child welfare services to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2023 by Perry relating to requirements for and prohibited uses of information contained in the immunization registry to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2024 by Middleton relating to the registration, ownership, and operation of certain motor vehicles to transportation. Senate Bill 2025 by Middleton and Betancourt relating to election precinct boundaries and the establishment of polling places to state affairs. Senate Bill 2026 by Middleton relating the approval of beach access to natural resources and economic development. Senate Bill 2027 by Middleton relating the designation of the Aaron M. Hicks Memorial Interchange to transportation. Senate Bill 2028 by Middleton relating the creation of additional judicial districts composed of Brazoria County to jurisprudence. Senate Bill 2029 by Creighton relating to the administration of the Texas Innovative Adult Career Education Grant Program to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2030 by Creighton relating to the establishment of the University of Texas at Austin Civitas School of Civic and International Leadership to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2031 by Creighton relating to the flying of the United States and Texas flags by public schools to education. Senate Bill 2033 by Colcourse relating to allocation of certain federal money provided under the Cranston-Gonzalez National Affordable Housing Act to local government. Senate Bill 2034 by Whitmire relating to prohibiting the extension of the period of a driver's license suspension for driving while license invalid convictions to transportation. Senate Bill 2035 by Betancourt relating to the issuance of certain anticipation notes and certificates of obligation to local government. Senate Bill 2036 by Colcourse relating to the confidentiality of certain biosecurity and other sensitive information shared with the Texas Animal Health Commission to the Committee on Water, Agriculture, and Rural Affairs. Senate Bill 2037 by Betancourt relating to the regulation of platting and subdivisions of land by a municipality or county to local government. Senate Bill 2038 by Betancourt relating to the release of an area from a municipality's extraterritorial jurisdiction by petition or election to local government. Senate Bill 2039 by Johnson relating to healthcare practitioner authority regarding certain do not resuscitate orders to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2040 by Springer et al. Relating the continuation and transfer of the regulation of the willed body programs to the Texas Funeral Service Commission to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2041 by King relating to the manner in which certain criminal proceedings are conducted to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2042 by King relating to prohibiting the carrying of a handgun by a member of a criminal street gang to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2043 by King relating the prosecution of organized criminal activity involving obstructing a highway or other passageway to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2044 by Hancock relating to the regulation of recycling and recycled products to natural resources and economic development. Senate Bill 2045 by Hancock relating to the data or information collected by the statewide all-payer claims database to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2046 by Whitmire relating to the repeal of the criminal offense of homosexual conduct to state affairs. That's a bigger stack.
Yeah, there's a big.
Admit it. Senate Bill 2047 by Miles relating to creating a mental health allotment under the Foundation School Program to Education. Senate Bill 2048 by Miles relating to eligibility requirements for student loan repayment assistance for certain mental health professionals to Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2049 by Miles relating to repayment of certain mental health professional education loans to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2050 by Miles relating to prohibiting the denial of a driver's license renewal for failure to appear in court to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2051 by Colcourse relating to the provision of information to a party in an eviction suit regarding the party's right to appeal a judgment to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2052 by Nichols relating to permit fees for groundwater wells imposed by the Southeast Texas Groundwater Conservation District to Water, Agriculture, and Rural Affairs. Senate Bill 2053 by Hancock relating to the disposition of burial spaces in abandoned plots in certain cemeteries to local government. Senate Bill 2054 by Hinojosa relating to a directory of e-cigarettes and alternative nicotine products sold in this state to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2055 by Hinojosa relating to the process for recovering overpayments under Medicaid to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2056 by Hinojosa relating to the use of a broker for the sale of real property by the Nueces County Hospital District to local government. Senate Bill 2057 by Hinojosa and La Mantilla relating to the operation and management of the Iwo Jima Monument and Museum by the Texas Historical Commission to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 2058 by Hinojosa relating to the employment of or contracting for armed commissioned security officers as school district security personnel to education. Senate Bill 2059 by Hinojosa relating to grant programs established to support nursing education or training to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2060 by Hinojosa relating to the sale, possession, or consumption of alcoholic beverages at the Texas State History Museum to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 2061 by Hinojosa relating to the modifications of model subdivision rules to local government. Senate Bill 2062 by Colcourse relating to bids or proposals required for insurance and risk pool contracts entered into by a school district to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2063 by Betancourt relating to the oversight of and reporting requirements for the county elections administrator to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2064 by Betancourt relating to the dissemination of patient information through a telemedicine, telehealth, or teledentistry service to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2065 by Betancourt relating to the recovery of overpayments made to dentists by certain employee benefit plans to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2066 by Betancourt relating to state agency employment openings and aptitude assessments to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2067 by Betancourt relating to the public sale of real property taken in execution of a judgment to local government. Senate Bill 2068 by Betancourt relating to the information maintained by the Texas Education Agency regarding post-secondary education and career opportunities to education. Senate Bill 2069 by Betancourt relating to the required posting of signs regarding human trafficking penalties by certain schools to education. Senate Bill 2070 by Betancourt relating to the funding of projects by the Public Utility Commission of Texas to promote the reliability and resiliency of the power grid to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2071 by Betancourt relating to automatic recounts of certain elections to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2072 by Betancourt, Perry, and King relating to service retirement benefits payable by the Employees Retirement System of Texas to commissioned peace officers to finance. Senate Bill 2073 by Betancourt relating to certain suits for personal injury that arise as a result of conduct that violates certain penal code provisions concerning sexual offenses against a child to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2074 by Whitmire relating to the prosecution of and punishment for an aggravated assault occurring as a part of a mass shooting to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2075 by Paxton, King, and Parker relating to amendments to the Uniform Commercial Code to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2076 by Colcourse relating to access by members of the legislature to training materials used by state agencies to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2077 by Menendez relating to the establishment of the Building Better Futures program to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2078 by Menendez relating to senior justice assessment centers in certain counties to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2079 by Menendez relating to peace officer reporting of suspected abuse, neglect, or exploitation of an elderly person to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2080 by Menendez and Blanco relating to the development of a language access plan to increase access to assistance under Health and Human Services programs by certain individuals to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2081 by Menendez relating to banning the use of pay-per-view in university interscholastic athletic competitions to education. Senate Bill 2082 by Menendez relating to the disruption of quiet enjoyment of a residence with pamphlets, leaflets, or flyers demonstrating ethnic or religious animus to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2083 by Menendez relating to public school students' transition from an alternative education program to a regular classroom to education. Senate Bill 2084 by Menendez relating to creating a fine arts allotment under the public school finance system to education. Senate Bill 2085 by Whitmire relating to a grant program for crime victim notification systems to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2086 by Colcourse relating to a property right in DNA to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2087 by Hughes relating to an exemption from jury service for the spouse of an officer or employee in the legislative branch of government to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2089 by Creighton relating to the instructional material list and supplemental instructional materials adopted by the State Board of Education to education. Senate Bill 2090 by West relating to prohibited adverse employment action against certain first responders based on a post-traumatic stress disorder to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 2091 by West relating to the authority of a taxing unit to sell certain seized or foreclosed property to an owner of an abutting property without conducting a public sale to local government. Senate Bill 2092 by West, relating the authority of a municipality or county to regulate the locations in which a person may carry a firearm, to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2093 by West, relating to preventing racial profiling, to Criminal Justice. Senate Bill 2094 by West, relating to prohibiting the carrying, possession, or storage of a semi-automatic rifle on the campus of a public or private institution of higher education, to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2095 by West, relating the prosecution of the offense involving the possession or carrying of certain weapons on the premises or property of certain locations, to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2096 by West, relating the use of force by peace officers and other officer interactions and duties, to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2097 by Birdwell, relating the authority of a municipality to annex property in certain water districts to local government. Senate Bill 2098 by Birdwell, relating to oversight by a county commissioner's court of certain emergency services districts to local government. Senate Bill 2099 by Colcorson and Middleton, relating to motor vehicle franchise dealers and the reimbursement of motor vehicle franchise dealers by manufacturers and distributors for warranty, recall, and preparation and delivery work, to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2100 by Miles, relating to defenses to prosecution of the criminal offense of gambling, keeping a gambling place, and possession of a gambling device, to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2101 by Miles, relating to certain notifications related to the rights of crime victims, to Criminal Justice. Senate Bill 2102 by Miles, relating to the initial registration and inspection period for certain rental vehicles, to Transportation. Senate Bill 2103 by Miles, relating to transferring certain investigations of abuse, neglect, and exploitation to the Health and Human Services Commission, to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2104 by Miles, relating to certain benefits paid by the Employees Retirement System of Texas, to Finance. Senate Bill 2105 by Johnson, relating to the regulation of third-party data collection entities, to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2106 by Zaffarini, relating to the Judicial Branch Certification Commission, to Jurisprudence. Senate Bill 2107 by Nichols, relating to the ownership of the pore space underlying the surface of land and the use of that space for the geologic storage of carbon dioxide, to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 2108 by Johnson, relating to the procedure by which a regional water planning group is required to provide notice of certain public meetings or hearings, to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2109 by Johnson, relating to the apportionment of the appointment of a guardian ad litem in certain court suits filed by the Department of Family and Protective Services, to Jurisprudence. Senate Bill 2110 by Johnson, relating the provision of natural gas by and rates charged by certain gas utilities, to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 2111 by Johnson, relating to reporting by operators of certain gas supply chain facilities and gas pipeline facilities on a failure to perform a contractual obligation due to a weather emergency, to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2112 by Johnson, relating to resources used to ensure the continuous provision of power, to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2113 by Johnson, relating to deadlines and time of inception for mechanics and materialmen's liens, to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2114 by Paxton, relating to the establishment of the Office of Independent Ombudsman for the Texas Education Agency, to Education. Senate Bill 2115 by Flores, relating to improvements to the Texas Information and Referral Network, to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2116 by Flores, relating to Banders County River Authority and Groundwater District, to Water, Agricultural, and Rural Affairs. Senate Bill 2117 by Creighton, relating to the information that must be included in a school district bond election proposition, to Education. Senate Bill 2118 by Creighton, relating to the calculation of the enrichment tax rate for certain school districts, to Education. Senate Bill 2119 by Schwertner, relating to the identification of areas supported by the Broadband Development Program, to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2120 by Zaffarini and Sparks, relating to the establishment of a family protection representation program within the Texas Indigent Defense Commission, to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2121 by Creighton, relating to property owner liability for personal injury claims arising from insurance restoration projects, to Business and Commerce. Senate Bill 2122 by Hughes and Springer, relating to the fast growth allotment under the public school finance system, to Education. Senate Bill 2123 by Hughes, relating to the participation of the medical school at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Tyler in the Joint Admission and Medical Program, to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2124 by Creighton, relating to requiring an opt-out policy for accelerated mathematics courses for certain students, to Education. Senate Bill 2125 by Colcourse, relating to suspension of the authority of a county election officer, to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2126 by Hinojosa, relating to the authority of a county to administer a used tire buyback program, to local government. Senate Bill 2127 by Hinojosa, relating to the required approval of certain hospital visits as a condition of release on parole or to mandatory supervision for certain releasees, to Criminal Justice. Senate Bill 2128 by Miles relating to the establishment of the Task Force on Concrete Plants to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 2129 by Miles relating to the establishment of an independent market monitor for the natural gas market by the Railroad Commission of Texas to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 2130 by Miles relating to the establishment by the Railroad Commission of Texas of a policy to eliminate the routine flaring of natural gas from wells or other facilities regulated by the Commission to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 2131 by Miles relating to the treatment of a replacement structure for a structure that was rendered uninhabitable or unusable by a casualty or by wind or water damage as a new improvement for ad valorem tax purposes to local government. Senate Bill 2132 by Miles relating to the provision of counseling services by certain providers under Medicaid and reimbursement for those services to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2133 by Miles relating to transportation procedures for certain stage renal disease facility patients during a declared disaster, Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2134 by Miles relating to the use of telemedicine and telehealth services in the juvenile justice system to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2135 by Colhorst relating to the course information required to be posted on a public institution of higher education's internet website to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2136 by Creighton relating to measures to support public secondary and post-secondary American history and civics education to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2137 by Creighton relating to requiring public institutions of higher education to offer an undergraduate course in financial literacy and soft skills to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2138 by Parker relating to the authority of certain municipalities to receive certain tax revenue derived from a hotel and convention center project to Natural Resources and Economic Development. Senate Bill 2139 by Parker relating to the creation of the Opportunity High School Diploma Pilot Program to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. Senate Bill 2140 by Parker relating to a student's eligibility for special education services provided by a school district to education. Senate Bill 2141 by Parker relating to the essential knowledge and skills of the technology applications curriculum for public school students to education. Senate Bill 2142 by Parker relating to requiring the Attorney General to establish a process to identify and report certain foreign-related transactions in this state to the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2143 by Parker relating to eligibility for and access to certain Medicaid waiver programs to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2144 by Parker relating to advanced air mobility technology to transportation. Senate Bill 2145 by Parker relating to the provision and delivery of benefits to certain recipients under Medicaid to Health and Human Services. Senate Bill 2146 by Parker relating to oversight by the Comptroller of Financial Institution divestments from certain industries to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2147 by Huffman relating to the amendment of the designation of cultural or historic districts in certain municipalities to local government. Senate Bill 2148 by Huffman relating to the statute of limitations for possession or promotion of child pornography to criminal justice. Senate Bill 2149 by Sparks relating to boycott, coercion, and intimidation activities by insurance companies regarding environmental, social, and governance matters to State Affairs. Senate Bill 2150 by Nichols relating to the designation of the portion of U.S. Highway 84 in Joaquin as the Lieutenant General O.R. Cotton Whiddon Memorial Highway to transportation. SJR 79 by Parker, proposing a constitutional amendment authorizing the legislature to provide for an exemption from ad valorem taxation of all or part of the market value of the residence homestead of a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient or the surviving spouse of a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient to local government. SJR 80 by Betancourt, proposing a constitutional amendment creating the Utilities Reliability Fund and the Utilities Reliability Revenue Fund to provide financial support for projects that enhance the reliability and resiliency of the power grid in this state to business and commerce. SJR 81 by Birdwell et al., proposing a constitutional amendment providing for the creation of the Technical Institution for Infrastructure Fund to the Subcommittee on Higher Education. SJR 82 by Johnson, proposing a constitutional amendment providing for the creation of the Texas Power Resiliency Fund to finance the operations of backup power sources to business and commerce.
Pursuant to a motion previously adopted, the Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. Wednesday, March 22nd.